Hey everybody, it's Fiberglass Friday, episode 6, take 3. If my phone rings one more time at 6:30 in the morning, I'm going to freak out right in the middle of the vid. As you can see, I got an empty table over here, so that's a lot of progress this week. You can see I got one more table over there to go. I got about 15 more models on there, but that should be pretty manageable for next week, depending on if I'm out shoveling stupid snow or not. So I'll just show you the progress here from this week. The ones that have been all trimmed, sanded, holes for bolts, web, and legs put on them. Most of them, some of these guys over there are just little drop molds, but I might put legs on a couple little guys over there. We'll see how much time I got left. So convenient that we have a new member, and I'll just call him Brink, on the forum, and he was asking about legs. So he's thinking about adding legs to some molds that he's purchased. So it's good timing. I'm like right in the middle of what I'm doing here. So what I'm using is, it's fur, 2.5 inches by a half an inch, or like 50 mil by 13 mil. This one here. What I do for smaller legs, I just put it on right on the on my table saw, and I just rip it in half for small legs. And for big beefy legs, I've even used straight 2x4s, or I've used or I just rip a 2x4 in half. So it's roughly like a 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter when it's done, or like a 2x2 or 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. If you want beefier legs, that's what I do. If you don't have a table saw, then I think you can buy like 2x2 stuff like that in your local lumber supply place. There's always something you can use. You don't have to use wood. You could use, you can see a variety of PVC pipe. A lot of people use pipe. I've tried it. It's okay. It's just I have lots of wood around, and wood's cheap, so and it's easy to deal with. So that's why I prefer. You could do rebar too. Like when you get into the big stuff, you can go to bending rebar and putting that in. I used to have a rebar bender, but somebody stole it in the last couple of years. Okay, anyway, that's nothing to do with this. Let's move on. So I used to, so what I do is I line my models up. They've all been drilled out, trimmed up, sanded. The model's been stripped inside. I like to strip mine. You don't have to strip it completely. It's up to you. And then the legs. I used to go, I'll just tell you this funny story. I hope I get the name right. I think it's Tom, who's a regular poster on YouTube, who seems like a really pleasant chap, and he's sort of doing the same thing that I'm into, or a bunch of us are into. And he mentioned, because I used to silicone my legs on, and the very first year, I think, I used to use a hot glue gun, and I can't remember why I didn't use it anymore, and I moved on to silicone. And he had mentioned a few months ago about a video. He says, "Do you ever use hot glue?" He says, "That's what I use. It's great." And I said, "No, I used to." And for whatever reason, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it. I don't know why I ever gave it up. It's so much easier than farting around with the silicone, because it sets like immediately, right? And you're ready to rip. So thanks, Tom, for giving my head a shake and getting me back on track again. There's my little glue gun right there. So anyway, I just mount them where I think I'm going to want them. Cut them all to, you're going to want to be higher than your highest point on your flanges, right? But don't try and have it exactly the same. I always go like a full inch or so, or a few centimeters above, because what happens is sometimes your flange isn't exactly level. So you're going to wonder, if you make them all level and you flip it over and you think, there we go, got mine, and it's going to be wobbly and wonky, and you're going to be like, what the heck is going on? It's because you've got part of your flange is going to be higher on one side than it's on the other. Then you're going to have to go with your level, and just after you've glassed it, and level them up a little bit. Like I showed that in, I think, the last video, how you do that. It's pretty easy. Don't have to worry about it too much. So you can see here, it's mostly small legs on these guys. So you either go 4s, or go with the old little tripod method on the smaller ones there. And then full size on bigger ones, heavy ones. So I'm just gonna try and line this up here so I can kind of show you what I do. Oh, this thing. There we go. Sorry, folks. Just give me 1 minute here. I'm having tripod issues. It doesn't want to cooperate with me this morning. Whoop. Doop. Okay. Sorry about that. So, almost there. So all I'm doing is I'm pre-cutting some pieces of glass. So for these full-size ones here. So I'm pre-wetting my glass, and then I'm just kind of coming in, and I'm going to wrap it. I'm just going to bring it in behind, like that. And then I'm going to do another one on top, again, attaching it onto the model in the back, onto the glass on the back. And then usually a third strip, I'm coming in behind. You have to imagine this is all tight and sealed. I'm going to come in behind and wrap it forward over the top of those ones. And that's usually all I do for something this size. And then for the little guys here, I'm just using the same sort of technique, just smaller pieces. Same thing, coming in, attaching back to the glass here. It's going to attach on the bottom too with your resin, and then I'll come back with another. If I want, I can go one more higher, right, and attach like this. And it's nice and neat, and you don't have to do too much sanding after. And you only need a couple, 2-3 little pieces on each leg, and it's good to go for the small one. When you're doing big, beefier ones, I had mentioned before, you're going to do little buttresses in between to attach, to give you like a second attach point, so it's nice and strong. Like the big one back there, yes, it's still here. I won't go into that story, but it's still here. But remember to mention, the bigger they are, the more you want to have points of contact with your big model. So that's why there's the buttresses, same as on that side over there. So as your models get bigger, you're going to want to get more points of contact with your model, because you don't want it wobbling and wiggling all over the place, drive you crazy. So sorry about that tripod mess. So the other thing I wanted to talk about this week was seam cutting. So you can use a variety of, so what I'm talking about is this here, your seam, when you first go to cut your seams. So you can use a variety. You can use this. I like this. Doesn't matter the brand. It's just I like it because it's a quick release. So you can flip it around fast, change your blade. I really like this one. I use this a ton. It's just little handheld blades, right? Or you can use like a scalpel kind, or like a craft X-Acto knife. Is what I use a lot too. You're going to find they go dull quick, so you're going to be changing blades in a hurry. I mean, blades aren't that expensive. Other things I like to have on hand is just a clamp and some channel locks, or I don't know what you call them from your side of the world. That's what they're called here, or if it's a spanner, I'm not too sure. And sometimes little bent needle nose like this. So I'll just explain. Sometimes they can be quite difficult to cut the seam on, depending if you have, like here, like a window that's underneath. This one isn't too bad. The girl here, just want to make sure I'm lined up, in behind her arm in here, this is a window. It's a see-through window in here. So there's where the seam line was. Whoops. You can see that right in here. And it was really hard to get in there. You have to pull like a dickens to get that to open. So I'll just tell you, if you've got somebody with you, if you've got a friend or a partner or a husband-wife team or something, it helps if you got second pair of hands. If you're by yourself, it can be a challenge. I'm sure there's a few web. You'll probably know what it's all about too. Some of them can be a real hassle when you're by yourself. So I just want to make sure I got this lined up. So you can see where the seam lines are on this one. This one's a little more than what you'd normally have, right? So I usually start by, here's my little snippers. Of course I don't have them close by. They're there. Believe it or not, these tin snips are really good rubber cutters. It's usually what after I put the glass on, they're great for cutting rubber. They don't get bound up and they slice really nice. So what I'll do is I'll just come up to a seam and I'll just give a snip to get it started, to get close. Now you can do a couple things. You can take out your handheld blade and your pliers, grab the front edge, and you could cut all the way down to open it up. I don't always do that. I usually start on, like, do that snip, and then I'll flip it over on its backside. Then I'll find where you can see the seam. You'll be able to see it through the, your rubber. You'll see where you're, in my case it's magazine. You'll be able to see it right there. So I'll go in and I'll just excise that and come out to the end of the flat. And now you've got a bit of an opening. So then you're going to want to work a little bit quick onto here, get that to open, and now you're on your way. Now you've got it open, and you're going to start cutting up the side of the seam. Now what gets tricky is you got to imagine, sometimes if it's on that model really tight and hard, it's really hard to pull it up with one hand. You're cutting with one hand and freehand, we're pulling with the other. So what I do is I take this clamp. I don't know what other folks do, maybe you got some other tips that are good, is I'll take this bottom flange, come on, I'll take the bottom flange and I'll fasten it right to the table with the clamp. So now that's clamped, so that's, now I'm free with this hand. So now I can use just my other hand to pull up, and it's secure on the table. So I can pull with all my might if I want. And then you just keep working up, and then on the inside, working up, then onto the inside, working up, working on the inside. Works quite well. Another little trick on some really big seams you could do is, I hope this shows up, is I'll actually, if you've got it clamped on, and I'm going to use my channel locks, but upside, I hope this is on camera, please tell me it is, yep. So I'm going to grab it upside down, and I'm going to grab the seam, and then you're going to pull it the opposite way from the model, so then it really opens it up, and then you can get in there by yourself and cut. So it can be tricky, it can be daunting sometimes. Sometimes you have a profanity-laced stripping session. I've had a few of those. I'm sure there's other people on here that have as well too. So keep your cool, relax, and for gosh sakes, be careful, because you know I'm always good for at least a couple little nicks a year. These things are super sharp, right? All of these things are. Just be careful. Maybe wear, if you want to wear gloves, but it's difficult. You can't wear a glove usually while you're cutting your cutting hand. It just doesn't work well. So just protect yourself and be careful. And like I said, it can get tricky depending on where the inside seams are, or the windows. Like windows are really tricky. You have to really pull hard to get in there to excise those. Let's see if you can see here. So you can see how that sort of, whoopsie. So you can see inside now where the windows are, how they close up. People are always asking about windows and pass-throughs, how those work. So you can sort of see. So it's all up, it's all in. Looking good, and oh, I'm way over time. So I apologize for the trouble with my tripod there, wasting some time farting around with that thing. So that's it for this week for Fiberglass Friday and Seam Cutting Friday. And take care, everybody. Hope you don't have to shovel too much snow, and we'll see you again next week.